Your neighbor's 1995 Toyota just hit 400,000 miles while your 2019 turbo engine needs its second rebuild at 60,000. Sound familiar? Here's the brutal truth. Modern engines are designed to die after warranty, but these 12 legendary engines, they were built before accountants started designing cars. We're talking about motors with documented cases of million-mile lifespans. Engines so reliable, mechanics hate them. While everyone's financing $60,000 disposable cars, smart buyers are grabbing these immortal machines for under $10,000. Today's countdown isn't just about reliable engines, it's about the last real engines ever built. Let's dive in. Number 12. Mercedes-Benz OM617, diesel, 1974 to 1991. The Mercedes OM617 diesel is automotive royalty disguised as a taxicab engine. This 3.0-liter inline-5 turbo diesel pumped out just 125 horsepower, but Mercedes engineers built it like a bank vault. The cast iron block was thick enough to stop bullets, the forged crankshaft was balanced to aerospace standards, and that Bosch mechanical injection pump was simpler than a bicycle. Here's where it gets legendary. Greek taxi driver Gregorios Sakinidis drove his 1976 240D for 2.8 million miles on the original OM617. When Mercedes bought the car back to study it, their engineers couldn't believe what they found. The cylinder walls still showed factory cross-hatching. The timing chain had never been touched. The injection pump was original. Imagine driving to the moon and back 6 times. That's what this engine survived. The secret wasn't high-tech wizardry, but old-school over-engineering. Mercedes used materials spec'd for industrial equipment, not passenger cars. Today, clean W123 diesels with the OM617 run $8,000 to $15,000, and they're actually appreciating because people finally realized these engines are basically immortal. Sure, acceleration is measured with a calendar, but when modern direct injection diesels are grenading at 100,000 miles, that old Mercedes will still be chugging along at 500,000. But if German engineering impresses you, wait until you see what Honda accidentally created while chasing horsepower. Number 11. Honda B-Series, 1988 to 2001. Honda's B-Series started as their attempt to make Civics fast, but ended up creating the most abused yet reliable 4-cylinder ever built. These 1.6 to 1.8-liter VTEC screamers made 125 to 195 horsepower. But the real magic was surviving teenage ownership. Picture this. A California pizza delivery driver bought a used Civic C with 150,000 miles, then proceeded to beat it mercilessly for another 420,000 miles. Daily redline pulls, missed oil changes, autocross weekends, this B16A endured it all. When finally tested, compression was still within factory spec. The engine had never been opened. How? Honda's engineers were paranoid perfectionists. They tested these engines at full throttle for 200 hours straight before approving production. The aluminum block featured fiber-reinforced metal cylinder liners that could handle twice the factory boost. The VTEC system added complexity, but somehow refused to break. Those forged connecting rods were designed for racing, but installed in economy cars. Even the oil passages were over-designed to maintain pressure when kids forgot maintenance. Finding a B18C Type R engine today costs $3,000 to $5,000, while complete cars run $8,000 to $20,000. Modern turbocharged competitors can't even survive their lease periods, yet these 20-year-old screamers still hit redline daily. Speaking of bulletproof simplicity, General Motors accidentally built something even tougher than they intended. Number 10. Chevrolet Small Block 350, 1967 to 2002. The Chevy 350 V8 wasn't designed for reliability. It just happened to be too simple to break. This 5.7-liter pushrod V8 made 145 to 370 horsepower and powered everything from grocery getters to cop cars. No variable timing, no direct injection, no complications, just 8 cylinders doing what they'd done since Eisenhower was president. Here's a story that defines this engine. A New York taxi company ran Caprice cabs 24/7, with drivers hot swapping at shift changes. One particular 350 logged 600,000 miles of Manhattan abuse without a rebuild. Stop-and-go traffic, potholes, winter salt, impatient drivers, nothing killed it. When finally retired, the engine still ran perfectly. The cast iron block could handle anything. Those hydraulic lifters never needed adjustment. And if something did break, every parts store in America had replacements. Police departments loved them because pursuit driving couldn't kill them. The 2-bolt main bearing blocks were adequate, but 4-bolt mains were invincible. Mechanics loved them because a timing chain replacement took 2 hours. Today, Crate 350S cost $2,500 to $4,000, and they'll outlast whatever you bolt them to. It wasn't sophisticated engineering that made them immortal. It was the beautiful absence of complexity. But for true engineering excellence that became accidentally legendary, the Japanese inline 6 at number 9 changed everything. Number 9. Toyota 2JZG TEGE 1991 to 2002. Toyota built the 2JZ to compete with BMW's inline 6s, but accidentally created an engine that would become mythical. This 3.0-liter inline 6 made 220 to 276 horsepower stock, but that's like saying Muhammad Ali could throw a decent punch. Here's what really happened. Toyota engineers were so paranoid about warranty claims on their flagship engine that they overbuilt everything by 300%. A Texas drag racer proved this dramatically. He ran his 2JZGTE at 850 horsepower for 3 years, making passes every weekend. When curiosity finally made him pull the engine at 280,000 miles, the factory honing marks were still visible. The iron block was a massive chunk of metal that laughed at boost pressure. That forged steel crankshaft could probably survive re-entry from space. The head gasket was so robust that blown 2JZs became automotive unicorns. They just didn't fail. Even the oil pump, usually the weak link in modified engines, was over-engineered to handle twice the flow needed. Toyota's engineers later admitted they went overboard because replacing engines under warranty would destroy their reputation. Today, clean 2JZ engines cost $4,000 to $10,000, and Supras have become six-figure investments. But for pure mechanical simplicity that absolutely refuses to die, BMW's old-school inline 6 remains criminally underrated. Number 8. BMW M30, 1968 to 1994. BMW's M30 is the most overlooked indestructible engine ever built. This 2.5 to 3.5-liter straight 6 made 150 to 215 horsepower and powered everything from executive sedans to highway patrol cars. While everyone obsesses over M engines, the humble M30 quietly achieves immortality. German taxi driver Klaus Merton became a legend among BMW enthusiasts when he documented 965,000 miles on his 1987 735i's original M30. The engine outlived 3 transmissions, 2 interior replacements, and most impressive, it never needed a rebuild. When BMW Classic Division inspected it, they found compression still within factory specs. The engineers were stunned. How did this happen? BMW accidentally used design standards from marine engines, where failure means death. The cast iron block walls were twice as thick as needed. That SOHC design meant fewer parts to fail. The timing chain was eternal, the forged crankshaft was balanced to Swiss watch standards, and cooling passages were designed for sustained Autobahn speeds. Even the Bosch Matronic injection, primitive by today's standards, was agricultural in its simplicity and reliability. These engines regularly see 500,000 miles without major work. Finding an E34535i today costs $4,000 to $12,000, and that M30 will run until gasoline becomes illegal. Think German engineering is thorough? The Swedes took reliability to another dimension entirely. Number 7. Volvo B230F, 1985 to 1998. Volvo's B230F, red block, wasn't trying to be special, just unkillable. This 2.3-liter inline-4 made 114 horsepower, which sounds pathetic until you realize it makes that power forever. A New York medical equipment salesman became a Volvo legend when his 1993 240 wagon crossed 1.1 million miles on the original B230F. His daily commute was 200 miles, and in 15 years, the only major repair was a water pump at 700,000 miles. The engine's longevity secret was Swedish stubbornness. Volvo engineers refused to compromise on anything. The cast iron block was so overbuilt that the same basic design powered boats. Those cylinder walls were thick enough to bore 3 times over. The forged Swedish steel internals were balanced perfectly, and the head design prioritized cooling over performance. Here's the crazy part. These engines loved neglect. One documented case showed a B230F running perfectly after 50,000 miles without an oil change. The oil had fossilized, but the engine didn't care. The famous red paint wasn't even special paint, just primer that became legendary. Today, clean 240S cost $3,000 to $10,000, and hipsters have turned them into cult classics. College professors still daily drive them because they simply refuse to die. But for third world certified toughness, Toyota's truck engine became literally unstoppable. Number 6. Toyota 22R22RE, 1981 to 1995. The Toyota 22R is what happens when engineers prioritize reliability over absolutely everything else. This 2.4-liter inline-4 made just 105 to 116 horsepower. But in places where breakdowns mean death, it became legendary. You've seen the Top Gear episode where they couldn't kill that Hilux. But here's an even better story. A Chilean mining company documented their 1988 pickup reaching 1.4 million miles, hauling equipment at 15,000 feet altitude. Original engine, original transmission, original everything. The abuse was unthinkable, overloaded daily, breathing thin air, temperature swings from freezing to blazing. The engine never cared. Toyota's secret was elegant simplicity. That timing chain was over-engineered to last the life of the vehicle. The cast iron block walls were thick enough to survive nuclear winter. Cooling passages were massive, preventing overheating even in Death Valley with a partially blocked radiator. The oil pump was bulletproof. The head gasket was practically welded on, and even when severely neglected, these engines just kept running. UN relief organizations, unfortunately terrorist groups, and farmers worldwide chose these engines because failure wasn't an option. Today, clean 22R trucks cost $8,000 to $20,000 and climbing fast because people finally realized they're irreplaceable. Want V8 smoothness with this reliability? Lexus delivered exactly that with something extraordinary. Number 5. Lexus 1 UZ-FE, 1989 to 2004. Toyota spent $1 billion and 6 years developing the 1 UZ-FE V8, creating an engine that would embarrass Mercedes and BMW. This 4.0-liter all-aluminum V8 made 250 to 290 horsepower while running so smooth that the champagne glass demonstration became legendary. But the real achievement was longevity. Matt Farah's million-mile Lexus proved what owners already knew. These engines were indestructible. His 1996 LS400 crossed 1 million miles with automotive journalists beating on it daily, and the original 1 UZ never needed rebuilding. Here's another verified story. A Las Vegas limousine company ran LS400s in 24/7 service, retiring them only when interiors disintegrated at 700,000 miles. The engines still purred like new. Toyota's paranoid engineering showed everywhere. 6-bolt main bearings when competitors used 4. Interference-fit valve seats that never dropped. Forged steel crankshaft overbuilt by 200%. The aluminum block used iron cylinder liners for durability. Oil passages maintained pressure even with worn bearings, and the timing belt only needed replacement every 90,000 miles. The ECU was so conservative that even neglected engines survived. Today, LS400s cost $3,000 to $12,000, becoming collectible as people realize we'll never see this level of over-engineering again. Speaking of over-engineering, Saab's Turbo 4 proved Sweden knows reliability. Number 4. Saab B234, 1990 to 1998. Saab's B234 proved that reliable turbo engine wasn't an oxymoron. This 2.3-liter turbocharged inline-4 made 150 to 230 horsepower and treated catastrophic failure like a personal insult. Here's proof. A Connecticut pharmaceutical sales rep put 486,000 miles on his 1997 9000 Aero's original B234R, still making full boost pressure. The turbo never failed, the head gasket never blew, and compression remained perfect. How? Saab engineers came from aerospace, where failure means death. They designed this engine like it was going into a fighter jet. The cast iron block could handle 400 horsepower on stock internals. That Garrett turbocharger was so understressed from factory, it basically loafed along at stock boost. The Trionic engine management system, complex as it was, proved surprisingly bulletproof. Forged pistons and rods were standard, not optional. The balance shafts eliminated vibration, extending component life dramatically. Here's the weird part. These engines actually improved with age. Many owners reported smoother running after 100,000 miles as tolerances perfected themselves. The cooling system was over-designed. The oil circulation was exceptional, and even when modified, they just kept running. Today, finding a clean 9,000 turbo costs $4,000 to $15,000, and that quirky Swedish mill will outlive conventional thinking. But for commercial-grade immortality, the diesel at number 3 is absolutely legendary. Number 3. Cummins 5.9-liter 12-valve, 1989 to 1998. The Cummins 5.9 12-valve isn't just reliable, it's the mechanical equivalent of immortal. This inline-6 turbo diesel made 160 to 215 horsepower stock, but horsepower becomes irrelevant when your engine literally cannot die. A Nebraska farming operation documented their 1996 Ram 2500 crossing 1.6 million miles on the original engine, still pulling 20,000-pound loads daily. Never rebuilt, original turbo, original P7100 injection pump, original everything. Here's what makes this engine special. Cummins built it for industrial applications first, then stuffed it into pickups. That 7,100 mechanical injection pump was simpler than a hammer and twice as reliable. No computers, no sensors, just mechanical perfection. The cast iron block was thick enough to use as a building foundation. The forged steel rotating assembly was balanced to perfection, and the 12-valve head design eliminated complexity. These engines were so overbuilt that enthusiasts regularly triple the horsepower on stock internals, with 500,000 miles already showing. The only weakness? The Dodge trucks around them disintegrated while the engines kept running. One documented case showed the same million-mile Cummins on its third truck body. Today, 12-valve Cummins trucks cost $15,000 to $30,000 and climbing fast because people realized they'll never build anything this tough again. But for sheer ubiquitous reliability, Honda's economy engine achieved something absolutely remarkable. Number 2. Honda D-Series, 1984 to 2005. Honda's D-Series is proof that boring equals immortal. These 1.2 to 1.7-liter inline 4s made 70 to 127 horsepower, but they made it forever. Nobody bought D-Series Civics for excitement. They bought them for cockroach-level survival ability. An Ohio pizza delivery driver became a legend when his 1992 Civic DX reached 725,000 miles on the original D15 B2. His maintenance schedule? Oil changes when he remembered, which wasn't often. The engine never complained, never failed, just kept converting gasoline into forward motion with the reliability of gravity. Honda achieved this through fanatical quality control. They rejected engine blocks for imperfections invisible to microscopes. The aluminum block used iron cylinder liners that refused to wear out. The SOHC head was simple as a spoon. Timing belts lasted 100,000 plus miles, and the non-interference design meant no damage even if they snapped. Here's the insane part. These engines thrived on abuse. One documented case showed a D16 running perfectly after a teenager drove it 30,000 miles without an oil change. The oil had literally turned to tar, but the engine didn't care. Parts cost nothing. Any mechanic could work on them, and they delivered 40-plus miles per gallon while being indestructible. Today, clean EG/EK Civics cost $3,000 to $10,000, becoming collectible as people realize we'll never see this combination again. But for the absolute pinnacle of reliability, one engine stands alone at the summit. Number 1. Toyota 3 SFE 1986 to 2007. The Toyota 3SFE is the most boring engine ever built, and that's exactly why it's number one. This 2.0-liter inline-4 made 130 to 140 horsepower and turned reliability into a science that embarrassed other manufacturers. Here's a story that defines this engine. An Australian taxi driver put 975,000 miles on his 1992 Camry's 3SFE. When finally tested, compression was still within factory specifications. But that's not the impressive part. The water pump, alternator, and starter were all original too. Toyota dealers documented multiple cases of these engines, crossing 800,000 miles on original everything. Not just internal components, but accessories that normally fail at 100,000 miles. How did Toyota achieve this? They accidentally over-engineered it. The safety margins were supposed to be 50%, but ended up closer to 200%. The cast iron block was absurdly overbuilt. Forged internals were balanced to perfection, and the DOHC head design was bulletproof in its simplicity. The oil pump never failed, cooling was overdesigned, and the conservative ECU prevented damage even during severe neglect. One documented case showed a 3SFE starting perfectly after sitting for 7 years. First try, no hesitation. These engines were so reliable, they created a problem. Nobody needed new cars anymore. Toyota had literally built themselves out of repeat customers. Today, 3SFE Camrys cost $2,000 to $7,000, and for the price of a fancy coffee machine, you get transportation that'll outlive your grandchildren's grandchildren. There you have it, 12 engines that make modern motors look like expensive jokes. While manufacturers today brag about warranties, these legends are approaching their 4th decade of daily service without breaking a sweat. You watched this entire video, which proves you're smarter than people financing $70,000 trucks that'll grenade at 100,000 miles. Do your wallet a massive favor. Hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone about to make a terrible car decision. You could literally save them thousands. And hey, while everyone else is calling mechanics and crying over repair bills, you could be driving something that'll outlive civilization itself. Thanks for watching, and check out our next video, 10 SUVs that'll run forever. Because some trucks are even harder to kill than these engines. Stay smart, stay reliable.